All right, let's just dive right into this explainer, shall we? Today, we are tracing a truly massive shift in scale. I'm talking about moving from the grand, cosmic concepts of divine control and human suffering literally all the way down to the highly tactical world of modern consumer marketing. So how exactly do we get from the heavens to a billboard? Let's find out.
We've got to begin with a question that basically sits at the very center of human history. If a divine being is actually in control of the universe, why in the world do we suffer, right? This is the ultimate problem of the Odyssey, the attempt to answer how a perfectly good God can allow evil and pain to exist. It's this massive tension that has challenged philosophers, theologians, and everyday people across centuries, because when personal illness or natural disasters or terrible social injustices strike, this question inevitably rises right to the surface.
Now, to understand how different traditions attempt to tackle that monumental question, we first need to lock down our core term, divine providence. If we look at the etymology, the word comes from the Latin providentia, which means foresight or prudence. It literally combines pro, meaning ahead, and videre, meaning to see. Historically, in a theological context, this implies God's protective care, his foresight, and his active intervention in the universe.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The concept of providence, 2. Reconciling providence and pain, 3. The theology of hope, and 4. The rise of faith branding.
Let's jump into Section 1, the concept of providence, understanding cosmic control.
What's truly fascinating here is the clear distinction theologians make regarding how this cosmic control actually functions on a day-to-day basis. Think of general providence as the gears keeping the earth turning, right? It's the continuous upholding of existence and the everyday maintenance of the cosmos. On the flip side, special providence is the lightning strike. It refers to God's extraordinary, direct interventions in the lives of people, the stuff we would typically categorize as miracles or highly targeted actions.
And different traditions handle the tension between this absolute divine control and human agency very, very differently. Historically, we see a massive split. You have the Reformed or Calvinist view, which leans hard into total sovereignty and determinism, specifically this idea of divine concurrence, meaning God is actively behind literally every single act that occurs. But in stark contrast, the Arminian view protects human free will through the concept of limited providence. They argue that God actually limits himself to allow for human free agency, and that predestination is based purely on divine foreknowledge rather than strict unavoidable determinism.
Moving right along to Section 2, reconciling providence and pain, the problem of suffering.
So, if a sovereign God is maintaining order, how on earth do we explain profound human anguish? Well, religious texts don't just ignore the pain, they actually confront it head-on. Take biblical texts like the Psalms of Lament, for example. The tear of human suffering causes a sort of ripple effect. It allows raw agony, even feelings of total, utter abandonment, to coexist right alongside a deep trust in divine presence. It's this profound idea that honest suffering doesn't negate faith, it's actually a vital part of it.
Modern theology takes this a step further. In his seminal work, The Crucified God, theologian Jürgen Moltmann insists on a pretty radical idea. Only a suffering God can help. He argues that God isn't just some detached deity watching comfortably from a cloud. The core concept here is that God intimately partakes in the suffering of humanity. The cross isn't just an isolated historical event. It's a revelation of divine solidarity with human pain.
Building directly on that concept, theologian Thomas F. Torrance maintained that the divine union, the incarnation of Christ, wasn't just about taking on physical flesh. Torrance argued it actually required actively absorbing the entire extent of human brokenness. By willingly entering into the absolute darkest places of human estrangement, the gap between God and humanity is closed. And what that means is that human suffering is theoretically transformed from the inside out.
Which brings us to Section 3, the theology of hope, transforming pain.
In his 1984 apostolic letter Salvifici Doloris, Pope John Paul II described suffering in a way that shifts the paradigm completely. He actually called it a school of hope. So in this framework, suffering isn't viewed as just some inherent evil to simply be endured. Instead, it's a unique space to learn absolute trust, to foster deep compassion, and to build genuine solidarity with others.
Following this theological framework, the tear of grief isn't just a meaningless drop in the ocean. It actually becomes a vehicle for hope. It transforms personal affliction into an eschatological promise. That's the ultimate guarantee that present pain is not the final word, and that it is actively tied to future redemption and complete, total renewal.
All right, Section 4, the rise of faith branding, selling salvation.
Now, we pivot sharply from all this heavy metaphysics right into modern capitalism. Welcome to faith branding. This is the practice of treating faith as a product and applying traditional marketing principles to sell it. Now, you might be wondering, why is this even necessary? Well, because in a hyper-consumer culture, various religions and denominations are essentially offering the exact same general end benefit: salvation, peace of mind, and comfort. So to survive and grow, they literally have to differentiate themselves using highly precise symbols, messaging, and marketing campaigns to reach consumers.
To truly wrap your head around the scale of this, just look at the year 2003. Religious publishing and products represented a staggering $6.8 billion market value, and it was growing at nearly 5% a year. And this wasn't just happening in quiet niche bookstores either. Secular corporate giants wanted in on the action. Walmart alone sold over $1 billion in Christian media during that time, literally right next to the lawnmowers and flat-screen TVs.
Breaking down that massive $6.8 billion, we can see exactly how these profound concepts of hope, providence, and redemptive suffering are materialized into highly profitable consumer goods. We're talking $3.5 billion in books, $1.4 billion in stationery and giftware, and another $1.4 billion in audio and video. It is a massive, massive commercial engine fueled entirely by spiritual need.
So, what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it's everywhere. You have media events like the 2004 film The Passion of the Christ, which was widely endorsed and actively used by denominations as a massive recruitment tool. You have the Church of Scientology, utilizing very traditional sales tactics and leveraging high-profile celebrity memberships. You even have the United Methodist Church wielding a highly consistent, globally recognized brand via their Black Cross and Red Flame logo. These are entirely different organizations employing secular, highly organized marketing strategies to cut through the noise of our daily lives.
So when ancient cosmic theology collides head-on with 21st century commerce, what exactly is the result? In our hyper-consumer-driven world, does branding inherently dilute the divine, reducing these profound, ancient mysteries to simple slogans and checkout aisle products? Or in a noisy, media-saturated culture, is it simply the most effective way to give hope a louder voice?